Annika's ready. When you get your coffees and get settled, have a sit. You can come closer, actually. I think she doesn't bite.
You can
Most of the time.
close as you want. Or I'm gonna send stuff round anyway, so. So I really hope this Sunday session won't be too boring. Basically, the rest of the committee wanted to hear about when I went to Hungary a couple of weeks ago to the felting retreat and asked me to do this. And I went, there's no way I can stretch that into 2 hours. So I'll do the Hungarian retreat and then I'll go back and talk about a whole bunch of online courses that I've done. And actually, I wrote a piece of paper. Deirdre,
Yes.
will you write down the teachers when I get to that stage? Because if anybody's interested, I thought we could make a list of online teachers. And then if you know teachers that I haven't attended, we can add them to the list. And then we have a nice resource, online courses. But hang on, I need this paper. There, I wrote that paper. Yeah, right. And then so on the spur of the moment, my daughter doesn't like traveling anymore, so I don't get to go anywhere. So I abandoned her for a week in September and went to Hungary to do a felting retreat. And the main reason I went was a teacher called Annika Boros. She also sells her courses under the name Barrybon. You've probably seen that more. And currently I'm into jewelry. So she had a workshop where you learn to do a necklace. Now this was tight in the day. It was a lot of work, but it was the one course I really wanted to do. And I wanted to figure out how you do felt that is so dense, finely felted but thin. Now she does it with a low micron wool. She said she preferred 14 micron, but we only had 16 micron. So this is 16 micron wool. And she was very precise, very meticulous, and it was exactly what I wanted to learn. So we started off by doing this bit, and I can't tell you all the details because that would be unethical, but this little cord, just making sure everybody can see, started out twice the length, and it was a cord made with only wool going this way, no rolling. And we had to sit and roll this thing till it was half the length it started. So it was a very vigorous, even though small, vigorous course. Cool. But I learned what I wanted from this course and I was really happy with it. And I'll just send it round and then Julianne can show it in detail.
Okay.
Sorry, Annika, what's her name?
I'll write it down here, Annika Boris.
And it's actually on a blog post that went out to announce it. It's each teacher has a link and their name on the website. So not all of them teach online, but
she has PDF courses that you can buy if you're interested. She does different necklaces with stones, and I hope to do more of them because my current interest in jewelry. But that fineness of felt was something I wanted to keep. So I really enjoyed that course. Now that course might have needed 2 days, but we did it in one day. Little bit of a thing over the weekend, or over the week I was there were more 2-day courses jammed into one. So the week was quite heavy going because every night we were there kind of, we need to finish, we need to finish, we need to finish.
Could I just ask you, sorry, how much was the course?
7 days
Yeah.
with transport from Budapest was €1,200, and that was all food and board. Food and board was quite basic, but and then you could bring some of the materials yourself or buy them
And
there.
accommodation.
That was included.
Okay.
It wasn't bad, especially with the work.
And you got COVID for free.
There were three groups, 2 English-speaking groups and 1 German-speaking group. My English-speaking group had somebody coughing and spluttering at the start of the week. And we were a little bit like 10 little Indians. First we were 9, then we were 8. And there were 2 who had COVID, but not bad symptoms. They were felting outdoors, and we were kind of WhatsApping them what they were supposed to be doing. It was very intense. I'm not used to that much socializing. And some people were really nice. Some people were a bit more hard.
Was 9 the maximum in the group?
I think there were around 10 in each group. So, yeah, it gives it a better hang. I think.
Great piece of paper.
So I really enjoyed that course. I would recommend, I haven't tried her not in person courses, but I will try one and then I can tell you all about it. The second workshop I did was a bag made with pre-felt. And I wasn't convinced about the design of the bag, because you made this flap with pre-felt and then you rubbed and rubbed and rubbed. And you, even though I would consider myself a decent felter, mine didn't actually stick without kind of having to sew it down, needle felt it in. But the technique is layering colored pre-felt between more muted pre-felt, which is very interesting.
Sorry, I know, like, is the pre-felt all the different colors, so you put all
Yeah.
different, they're all little patches and you put them all together. Okay, sorry.
So that was again, yes. And it was made as a double vessel.
Wow.
That's started.
Oh, that's interesting, the lining.
Which again, it's just amazing. I wouldn't have designed it that way. Here's some of my stitches left in it. But very nice color technique.
Was that fine wool?
This was all pre-felt.
But was it, what, you know, it
It
wasn't rough wool, it was micron,
no, DHG extra fine pre-felt.
extra fine.
That's mainly the one they had. So commercial pre-felt.
Commercial.
Ready
pre-felt.
pre-felt.
Okay.
So this is belted, like the double thing is belted, and then this is all from the top. I think it's a pattern.
No,
I'll have to go to class.
So it's a,
so, that was Bea Nemeth was the teacher for that, Bea Nemeth.
It's definitely on the
B,
website.
okay, here,
There isn't- Oh, there you go.
thank you.
And if not, I have the website.
and we'll share all this with you. So, but the idea of constructing your image of pieces of pre-felt was really interesting. I thought I was really clever by using just one pattern piece or 2 pattern pieces, the square and the middle, but it was still really slow going. So we ended up working really hard in the evening to get it finished. The one thing that didn't take all day was this cushion.
Oh, very
And-
impressive.
And basically we made this not like individual cushions, but like a big rug. So we actually used home dyed pre-felt to cut out the patterns. And then we put them on canvas, and then we put huge layers of carded unknown wool, according to the teacher, but local, native, whatever. And then we had a roll about this big, and we stood on two sides of the table and we rolled them between us. So it was a team effort. And then there were wooden tools, which was like a wooden board, but with bits carved out at the bottom and handles. And we were leaning on the roll with these wooden things. So this was a collaborative effort. When we had finished the whole piece, we got to cut out our own piece and make a cushion. And the teacher had this cord making machine. So we made cord, and these are actually ordinary wool yarn, but each color is 4 lengths of one color. So there's 16 strands, and it makes a really tough, tight cord.
Be a good purse handle.
So my sewing is only so, but this, yes. So that's sewn on the edge to sort of finish it. So this was a team effort. It was good fun, and we actually finished on time. So this was a 1-day workshop.
How many were in each class or each subdivision though?
About 10.
That is very small.
Yes.
What's the name of that?
Oh, sorry, that was
And again, this,
Bian Nemeth.
it's on the invitation that everyone got, all the members, that Fiona sent out. So if even if you don't go to the web, she sent out the email to all members.
Describe the first, what's the name of it, how to do what?
I think it was just a felt cushion.
We didn't know before you went.
Actually, what does it say on the materials list?
For the felt cushion,
Yeah.
you will get all the materials for the cushion on site. Please buy the €27 pillow ticket in advance, which also includes the soap and resist. Materials cost person
Okay,
for the whole
So
category.
there wasn't a description really. It was a felt cushion.
We didn't know it was going to be.
No, this was all kind of. The only thing I knew I wanted to do was the jewelry, and then the rest was sort of.
Facebook was more. So I did
Yes.
whatever was most active.
The course I found probably the least interesting was this. This is a doorway guardian. So the teacher was talking about a lot about the history of hanging things in your door, and in the past people would have to step over a big threshold and maybe even lower their head, which showed respect for the house. And this was supposed to make you show more respect.
And it's called a doorway.
Yeah,
A threshold guard.
The threshold.
so it was made, I would have made these first and then incorporated them in. But she made this and left tufts that you then joined this to, which I thought was actually more complicated than it needed to be. But and our translator was very eager to help, but not the expert felter. So yeah, she actually pulled off a couple of people's. So the teacher had to come and help them put it back on again. But again, it was a good learning experience. And one thing I learned was nobody touched my felt.
That's a way.
But basically it was a fun thing to be making, and
Yeah.
the colors, I kind of tried to go outside my comfort zone. So
Looks fabulous.
Looks alien.
and then the final course I did, I actually didn't think I would enjoy, because I've tried joining silk and wool, and I never liked the edges. I always thought it looks scruffy. But that might very much be my skill level. So I went into this course with a little kind of not high expectations. But it was a very interesting technique where we laid out white silk first and then laid out the wool on top. And that took quite a while. And I tried really hard to keep my edges clean to see if I could come to like the combination of silk and felt. Because and then we turned it over and then put wool on the other side, following our initial kind of design. This is probably thicker than it would need to be. If I did it again, I'd use less wool. And then no, yes. So the interesting bit with this course was after we'd felted the green, in my case, green wool to white silk, we were mixing little bits of wool and we dyed each square separately.
Oh.
That's why you get kind of a so I quite enjoyed that, and I was saying, okay, this is kind of too small a scarf for anything useful, but yes.
And did other people do other than green?
Yes, there was a lot of blue and purples. I was the only green person.
Dye a little bit. With like liquid dye?
Yeah, and I was sort of taking a bit of green, bit of blue, bit of entanglement board, to get as many different colors as I could.
So, sorry, start with that, just a plain white sheet of silk. And then you put all this on it.
Was it acid dyes or was it?
Acid
pepper
dyes.
acid?
Are those good fitted still?
Sorry?
Are they fit in their washes?
Yes,
Yes. Very good.
Is that wet felting?
yes,
You just put that on and then wet felting.
wet felting and then dye.
Done before you start.
Yeah,
And what kind of dyes did you use?
acid.
Acid.
And she had a mix, she had a bit of jacquard, a bit of other things, whatever. She's been doing this for a while, so she just had a selection of
And how
colors.
did she fix it? The dye?
Dye on.
Yeah,
Yeah. Rather than submerging thing.
yeah. And she used the microwave.
Ah, so heat.
Yeah,
And she did them one at a time,
yeah.
2 minutes?
Actually, she had a thermometer and checked,
Oh, how,
I think she was going to 85 degrees.
in the microwave, or should the
And when she took it out.
plant?
But again, I can't tell you too much because this is the livelihood of these.
Right, and
people.
you've actually,
But, I'm happy to share the ideas.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you get the, I think it's secretary. To shape her really fine.
oh,
Very precise. How did you
she,
learn it?
she, in the invitation,
Yeah,
they said you can bring
yeah.
a pattern. So she had patterns, but they were kind of all swirly, and I'm not a very swirly person. I like kind of,
Yeah.
so she said bring a 90 by 90 pattern. So I've been drawing that before I came. So I had a sheet of paper I laid under the bubble wrap, then the silk, and then I was kind of laying out.
And how did you make the line? So try to use the needle?
I was just sort of pushing, when I'd laid it out, wet it, and I was there. Now, she was getting a little impatient with me because I was falling behind, because I tried to make all the edges. Because I don't like, there's actually one side of this
This is amazing.
where I didn't do it, and I'll show you what I
You know
do.
exactly where it is.
Would you do pre-felt and cut it up in future?
I think that would be, probably easier.
I didn't create that or not, did you get to thicker, they have a thinner one and a thicker one, you should make your own. Purchase fee felt doesn't allow as much. So the needle felt that cost me. And so then we have less. So these, I think I have some. They have a silk one that's very light. So there's different kinds of pre-filled. with different- for things. You want
Similar like the they're dying, you just have a colored silk and then put a,
Of course.
you know,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
want to make a silk scarf heavier.
Oh, yeah.
Felt
No, I mean,
says
there's
something.
lots of different ways of
yeah,
doing it.
or-
This was just a very to get the different colors.
Because your channels are black, if you were using white wool, then they would be the colors of the background because they're
Yeah.
black, it's such a dominant color.
But it would be lovely, white on white as a little blind in your
Yeah.
bathroom or something, it'd be
But
lovely, yeah.
what she wanted to show was you can dye the individual
Yeah.
silk bits. Other people had much stronger contrasts, so they had purple and teal and turquoise.
She actually has them on, she's been sharing them on her Instagram,
Yes,
not the
so
last name of the
if
person.
you want to
Nadia.
show some of the others, that would be great. So, yes, the retreat
Okay.
was great fun, but I was very happy to get home.
Yeah.
7 days. There were 5 days of workshop.
Hard work.
Not from Ireland. But I did meet an Austrian woman who lives on the west coast, Sandra. I don't know, I think I've seen her at some wool event and she was great fun. But actually, everywhere she was, people were laughing, but she was in the German speaking group, so I was like, I'm gonna sit where she sits.
Can you speak German? You speak Swedish?
Yeah, no, I could do French better, so
Yeah, keep it.
there were some lovely people
As
there.
long as it gets back. to
And some people I work with.
And the hotspot should still work.
So any questions about that?
Is that all you made?
I really think that would be lovely, yeah, and square window somewhere, just with the light and just hang it down, maybe there is, so.
So I don't know, should we take a coffee break now?
Yeah,
And
that's
I'll
okay.
go on to online courses.
Yeah. And so.
Hi, Colleen, good to see you.
Jewelry making, you know, like.
We can show you what the coffee looks like.
Yeah, it's like,
Uh,
you know, coffee session with.
There'll be so many more.
Or.
Sorry.
The 2 hours might be quite enough, but send in what you want to see, because we're currently trying to figure out what to do with Sunday sessions going forward. So if you have something you want to show or something you want to see,
Let us know,
yeah,
because. Yeah, we're not the,
Yeah.
we're just the committee, but we're not like the bosses or something. It's a group.
That, how to make cell on top of sink or, yeah, no,
Oh, Nunavut.
cause there's loads of stars, and I'd love to change them.
I've done that actually, I have a little skinny, you know, where you buy them in the market, and I built.
Yeah.
Red one, I bring it in, and then I felted it all around the edges, so the edges are in the same color with red. and green.
Where?
yes, that is the kind of data felting.
And if my phone goes to sleep, let me know, so. I'm not gonna tell you the password, but I'll.
So, yeah,
Tell you.
I mean, I was gonna say that takes way too long, but we could make a small silk square.
Yeah, it's a learning.
And
It's not a product. experience.
So we'll write that up on our Sunday session list. We might have to charge for the materials. But,
So, I mean, it's being recorded.
so we're gonna have a little break with coffee and tea. And if you have any ideas for Sunday sessions, just throw them out.
Yeah, we'll actually start writing them here. Ideas for fun. There we go. Or- If we want the other reason, I write.
Yeah. Deirdre is definitely, gonna do that.
All right, so we're having a break. Do you want to see what the cake looks like, or is that? That's apple crumble. It's from Sally's Baking Addiction. I've never made it before, so I decided, all right. All right, I'm gonna walk the thing and hopefully I don't drop it. So we're walking, don't get, no, I'm walking smoothly and gracefully, so no one gets nauseous. We'll pretend I'm on a, like, one of those, you know, in films, they have those like tracks that cameras go on. Slowly, instead of clumsily in my case. Oh, there's cake. There's cake. There's cake. There's cookies. There's cake. There's biscuits. There's sugar. There's milk. There's tea. All right, I'm gonna now walk back. I'm gonna walk back. Hello, Elizabeth. I'm walking back slowly, and I'm gonna plug this back in so it doesn't die. If you want to say hello to anyone. Hello, hello.
Having a great time here and the cake is beautiful.
Thank you, cake makers. All right. We want to say hello while you're counting. Oh, I forgot all about that. Forgot all about money. I never remember this part of it. Just do you find it? I think we need to remind people because I forget.
I try and. Yes, I would be.
That's the best one.
I want to do, I'm gonna try to do that in a much longer, because I haven't been, I lost, the fleece, from blue. And some of it I used for the piece that is to the information, but I was taking a good bit of it. Left in front of the wash, and I'm gonna do it. We won't find out nothing. And I'm thinking, there's no market. I know that it's not really something to do. Basically,
I'd love to have it.
Oh, that's all up.
And we will.
thanks for the time.
So would you like to? And one thing I said, that's what I know, that I started on. And some of them. Yeah. And then we want to do the. So I noticed, you know, she said, but I know she was really.
It's 91.
Okay. So these are millions of courses you did online.
Yes. Annika, that would give you great ideas for necklaces, neck pieces. Who was that by?
Fiona Duffy.
So I'll get. Sorry?
Amazing. But that's what they do.
Thank you to our lovely bakers. Thank you so much.
So, do you want to start again?
Yeah. A break, so. I got rid of it, you got rid of it. Oh, it thanks to all the work that the exhibition was beautifully renovated and thanks to the volunteers, yeah, for hours that went in with all the preparation of getting there
getting the stuff in and. Thank you so much.
Well done, well together. Thank you.
So the bus of the exhibition that you go in and out, people come in all the time. Doing and out and.
Yeah.
Sandy keeps telling me.
That was very good, I think I fixed the system. Yeah.
It's a good spot.
Maria Roberta is covering for us today. Thankfully.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mairead.
We've
Thank
got
you, Marie.
5 sales, which is fantastic, and one piece, two people want commission.
Wow.
I didn't realize they were for sale.
Everyone's house is just getting stuffed with all the artwork, so they're dying to sell. Oh, the prices are all there, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, till now, Filmmakers Ireland hasn't been involved in selling the work. We just connect the buyer. We're considering
Yeah,
taking payment for the artist. But if we do that, we might have to take a 10% commission to cover the kind of sum up costs and things.
Yeah.
So feedback on if that is a good idea or if we should keep it as it is very welcome.
yeah, please, yeah.
I think it's a good idea, because if somebody wants to buy it on the spot, you get your credit, whereas if they go home, they're about to say, oh, I think again.
Yes.
They still can't take it home though. They have to
No.
stay on.
But
Yeah, still will be sold and it'll be theirs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we'd have to buy packaging, and
so there would be some costs, so there would have to be a commission for Filmmakers Ireland, which we don't obviously take.
It's very.
I beg your pardon?
They still be responsible for their own tax, the way they deal with it themselves.
Oh, that's always any exhibition, as an artist. You can apply for tax exempt status, but
But not half.
yeah,
Variables.
they're kind of different rules for different things. And most of us probably don't sell enough to make a big difference on the tax.
I think under 500 euro, you're okay, isn't it?
I don't know, but I know if I add up all my costs, they usually negate any sales I make.
So if you do your Ross, you will be known as an artist, which means if you do kind of apply, get at least your paying tax or your trying to pay tax, and it looks good. But most of the time, what you spend, you're lucky to get maybe one piece that's big 1 year, so you're out there, but you're not actually paying tax, although you're doing one form every year. You're in the zone, but it's very hard in Ireland to actually make enough for them actually put the hand out.
I've applied for that thing, the artist exemption.
Mhm.
and
It's
waiting for-
a lovely certificate. They send you a really nice certificate. But again, if you look, even though I show a lot of work, I don't sell that much, and what I sell pretty much never come up to the costs that I incur.
Yeah. So, but do the one form because it covers you, you know what I mean? Because if you do start selling stuff, they're saying, oh, when did you just start this today?
Were you, would you be like to write a blog post about this for the website, if you have expertise?
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
would I like to
To write a blog post? It doesn't be long for the website.
Information one,
Yeah, because that's, I mean,
that would be brilliant. Thank you.
Because I started in the arts, I have to do it every year.
Okay.
So I don't get that wrong, me there,
Okay.
and not being there, because when you do something make it. It's like, what's she doing, like, there's no record of her being an artist. You know, but if you want to apply for things, you have to have pedigree of the government knowing what you're doing.
You have to apply every year.
I'm not sure about I've never applied for that grant.
Yeah.
Because I've
No,
never.
Exemption.
it's only once. Once you have it, you have it.
But it's definitely not wearable.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not wearable.
So it has to be something
art.
utterly useless
Yeah.
of artistic merit. So a sculpture or a wall piece.
I wonder how ceramicists do it, like, well, they're really not using those mugs, they're just ornamental.
I don't think you can do it from mugs either. It's sculpture.
But if you had like wall platters, those would be like. half
Yeah,
the
if
green
they
ones.
hang on the wall, you can, and you have to show a couple of sales, I think, to qualify.
Yeah.
And Visual Artists Ireland has a, like a people you can contact about things, but then they kind of throw back, say, well, you need to look it up, and so I did that with the hats. And so, but they have a, like a legal, but some sort of advisory thing. You don't have to be a member of that.
On that regard, like, it would be nice if we could have mentors, like, for example, like, I'm the newbie in here, I'm the less experienced, and in this room, I see nothing else than gold in bars, because you all know so much that I don't know. And so many people have like to talking about the exemption, some people have website, and I'm at the beginning of the journey. So it'd be great if we had
Paper trail is important if you want to actually make business.
the
You
part.
want to be a paper trail, so important to people. We know paper trail out there. They'll go to look and they'll imagine you've done 50 million times more than you have.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so.
But how you get better is doing a course like
Yeah.
Annika.
Yeah.
So if you could
Yeah.
show us some of
Yeah,
the.
I'll
Yeah.
get to that. Again, we're all volunteers, so, and we find it hard enough to do the committee work,
Okay, yeah.
but,
And if you're
again,
not funding, try to get some funding from Creative Ireland or Create Ireland.
again, that is a question of time and priorities.
Has people you can call, but the DCI doesn't really offer mentoring in that Northern Ireland.
We,
They have more mentoring, there's less of it here.
we asked them for help learning to use technology,
Yeah.
and they pretty much
Yeah.
sent us to the enterprise offices that each county has,
Oh, yeah.
but they are more set up for businesses.
Yes, exactly.
Uh,
Completely.
But again, we can talk about it, but we should
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
the one thing I would say is apply to the Crafts Council.
Hmm.
Become a member of the Crafts Council. I think I wrote on our Gans
fine.
page about that. Is that page still there?
Yeah, of course, it's still there.
So
It's there.
there is a page about the Crafts Council, and I would recommend,
Maybe I'll do a
just-
blog post on that, reminding people.
okay.
Well,
She's in.
I applied,
indefatigable.
and next week, sorry, I have a 20-minute slot with the Crafts Council on mentoring how to do,
Okay.
get grants. So I'll send something, see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, again, we welcome all sorts of suggestions, but
Bearing in mind.
the
that you're
time we
volunteer.
have
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
there you go. So I used to work in ceramics, glass and bronze, but I wanted something less energy hungry. So I started looking at textile. I went to the Knit and Stitch 2019, and I did 7 workshops in different textile medium. And the tapestry one and the felting was the most interesting. So I actually started out doing a bit more tapestry, but then the basic and beyond came up in 2020. And I love courses. I love learning, so I go to any course I can go to. And then with COVID, that was sort of the end of in-person learning. But it turned out that there were so many opportunities to learn online. And because I was pretty much shut in my house with my daughter, the community, when you did a course, saved my sanity. Because
I'm thinking, it could be someone's joining. It's someone joining. Thank
so
you. I don't know why it's showing.
most of the courses I've done is on a platform called Rizuko. But you go find the teacher and then they'll channel you there. But Rizuko works in that there are modules, usually a week's worth of videos are there on a Friday or a Monday. And then you kind of put up photos of what you've done, you ask questions, and the teacher communicates with you, but also other people. If you have a problem, other people might come and say, well, I tried this, I did this. Mostly it's everybody telling each other how good they are, which is nice. But it's a community. Now, it does cost money, unfortunately. But I'll go through the courses I did, and then any questions, or if you have other experiences you want to share. So after the basic and beyond, I made a piece on the COVID virus that ended up through people sharing on Facebook in the Irish Times. And then it was bought by the National Museum of Ireland. Unfortunately, that piece is terribly badly felted because I didn't know much about felt when I made it. It was bought because of the subject matter, not my skill at all. So I tried to tell the National Museum I'd make another one that was good, but this was for their COVID collection, so they wanted the original. So I had to give them this really bad piece.
It's not, it's really good, it's really good.
Well, I kind of ran out of red for it because I was making it in red wool. So I contacted Leico to buy red because I liked her red.
She's a Japanese supplier that has a shop in Carlow, Lico.
And if you look on the one, we linked to her for the one that we did the tapestry, we linked
Yeah.
her, and we linked her also when we did the August craft one, because we
Yeah.
both opened her up. So they're-
So she asked me, so do you want 16, 18 or 21 micron? And I went, I don't know, a bit of each. And then she wrote back and said, well, what are you going to use it for? And I said, it's a sculpture. And she then explained to me that the 16 micron was for nice scarves and soft stuff. 21 micron was much better for a sculpture. So that was my start of realizing that the wool actually makes a difference. So I started off kind of enthusiastic, but not knowing much. So after that, I decided I was going to do courses. And the first course I was recommended was Pam de Groot. She lives in Australia and has 2 main online courses. And they have lots of different elements. But one course is based very much on the difference between thin felt and thick felt. This started out like coal, but because there's thick felt and thin felt, it automatically makes a shape like this. Same thing, this, thick and thin. And I don't think that's kind of proprietary, so I'll share that with you. And then she also had another course that was based a bit more on other techniques, not so much coherent.
I think it's better to take the thin and thick font first. And that one I took first, and at that point I was fairly experienced, but I would not, at the time I could not extract all the different parts out. It was like beyond me. Versus that one, each week or each time you would be doing one technique or one aspect of it. And so it made so much
Yes.
more sense.
So the I don't remember quite what it's called, but the one with thick and thin is more useful. Ramona Farrelly won our bursary this year.
And she wrote it. And she wrote it.
And she asked which of these courses should she take, and we suggested that one.
And she does a blog post about it.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah. So I think this was actually part of the first one,
It was fun.
or no, this was the second
That's the
one.
first, that's the second, and then there's a third, isn't there?
There was a kind of, anyway,
Like my,
there's one that this is the main picture for it. That's her second one,
that's the splash.
Splash. So these are from her. And I found that really useful in learning a little bit about what's good felt. Now, good felt rules doesn't apply the same way if you're making scarves or if you have a specific purpose in mind. But if you want to send something to the International Felt Makers Association, the felt should be pretty solid. It shouldn't stretch very much. Now, some of these pieces are my early pieces, so some of them will stretch. So, but again, my one advice for good felt is if you think it's done, give it a rest and go back and do it again. You can always felt it a bit more. So Pam de Groot, very interesting, especially for the thick and thin sort of thing.
How many classes were they kind of, can you remember?
I think those were kind of 6 to 8 weeks.
And once a week
Yeah,
for 3 hours or so, or was it?
I think minimum 3, probably more.
Yeah.
These classes are quite expensive, so I would make sure I have the time to do it when you sign up for one.
Lorna, so did you get information on what materials you need before the class? Like,
Yeah.
you know, so you don't want to start a class and you don't have.
No,
So they give you a list of what you need.
yes. Now, one of the problems I had doing all these courses was everybody wanted different micron, different type. So I ended up with a room full of different wool.
Yeah, different.
So now I kind of ignored that a bit. I only buy white and black wool, and I dye the wool I need for when I need it, which means at least I don't have like 10 colors of one type, 10 colors of the other type, and then you end up with little bits left over. At least now I go for just white and black because I can't dye black.
There's a little video on Felt Makers Ireland, going back last year, and there's a film of Sharon Wells from Bray, and she shows you how to she does her dyeing of the wool.
So the next tutor I went on to was Fiona Duffy. Now she's excellent. I have found that her courses have kept the same content, but they're shorter in time. It feels like, I could be wrong, but what I really liked about the early courses was you had 2 months of doing a bit, and you had the hanging, the communication and the socializing, and the late courses with Fiona Duthie I've done are only 3 weeks, and that just feels like. So, but maybe the courses I've already done are still longer. So have a look at that. She's very popular, so her prices are quite high. So when I first wanted to do a course with her, they were all full except one called Felting Over the Edge. And basically it was an 8-week course about doing edges of stuff. So it started quite simple, but then it got more and more elaborate, and you were sort of playing with a bit of silk, some pre-felt, some tassels, some balls, and I had quite a bit of pre-felt, so I did a lot of pre-felty play, and then the kind of where you make holes and then you shape pieces. So these were all my first course with Fiona Duthie, and I found that super rewarding.
I'm a really newbie, I only have to start doing stuff. When you say pre-felt,
Actually, somebody left some pre-felt here. I don't know whose it is.
You buy it, yeah.
You can make your own, which is a
Really
really nice
easy.
thing to do. If you don't know what you want to do, you can make different colors, different patterns, then cut it up and stick it back together again. But these are, I would assume, bought from a supplier. And you can
So you
get,
can felt on those.
or you can just felt those,
Yeah.
and then they become real felt. This is like you did,
That's like the first stage. of
Yeah.
felting.
and then you got,
It gets you started, man.
but those you can cut.
This is the ball, it's not that I think that's in heavy one, but yeah, so that's kind of what I want to go on.
That you could cut shapes out of and put onto other plants, and then you get much more crisp.
I say.
Yeah, and then.
I think it's in that.
Oh,
I would
Well,
say you from that.
So I don't know who's that
Sorry
is.
to interrupt you, but that's what.
That's, if you don't understand, that's the way to go.
Yeah, it's just that.
So is this the wool, or is that felting wool? Is that ordinary wool or is it that?
This is just wool,
Yeah.
and
There's
this
a little bit
is,
back to it.
probably this one. So you can have other things on top of the wool, and then it's up here.
So can you add things that does not pure wool, like you can, well, I know you can add
Uh,
silk.
Natural materials, and mostly if they're not too, they need to be either fluffy or thin, so the wool can grip it. Grip it. So there was actually a really good one to do, because a lot of techniques in the one course. Because of all these different ways to edge work, will teach you a lot of different felting techniques that you can use in the middle as well. Or just,
Excellent teacher.
so that is really a really good one of hers. I then did one that was sort of, except I didn't really bring great examples, but with texture on a flat surface. So I think these are some of my samples from there, which is just different ways of creating interesting texture on a flat surface.
And what class was that?
We'll look it up. And a good thing is, if you're doing all this, is to label your samples, which I haven't there, but here I was a bit more organized from the flat one.
To remember.
What you did, so you can recreate it. And samples, if you want to make something new and you're not sure how it's going to work, make a couple of small samples. Don't start on a big piece before you know the little piece looks okay, because you're wasting a lot of material and effort.
Yeah.
So even little samples like this will tell you a lot before you go on to make a big piece. But again, these courses, you can play, you can do silly things, or you can try just. And then a really rewarding course after that with Fiona Duthie was texture on a raised surface, where we did a lot more things that kind of came away from. So some of these are not perfectly felted. If I did them now, I'd do them a lot tighter. But again, it's a journey. So, and there's a lot of things you can do once you start to attach things to surface. you get much more lively stuff. And once you can do this like this, then you can make a hat, or you can make a wall piece. So consider the techniques on their own, and then figure out how they fit with what you want to make.
These would be great as Christmas presents to yourselves. So write out a list for your family and friends, rather than getting the same old slippers and scarves. Get them to buy you a course. I used to work there.
I bet you don't say that, but it is very good.
I just.
It's true, it's not a meaningful present.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I haven't even seen that one. I haven't seen it. It's a really good teacher. I did the paper for making lanterns, for making lights and
So that's Fiona Duthie. If you haven't got the money for one of her courses, but you want to see what she's like, there is a free tutorial on the internet for how to make one of these guys. That was kind of the starting point of the piece we had for Basic and Beyond in the spring. It's a double walled vessel where you sort of think ahead and you put on one side the decoration on the inside. So Fiona Duthie free tutorial, well worth it go if you want just a taster.
Yeah, I'd like to try that one.
we have a big workshop every spring, and it's called Basic and Beyond. And so it's really a really good tutorial. Sometimes we make hats. Annika hosted it last year, so we have to work out one, a Basic and Beyond for springtime coming up, and we'll let you know about that. But it's really, really recommended.
It certainly,
It's on a Saturday, it's not on a Sunday session, it's separate.
yeah, it's a full day course.
And I will link to as much as I can keep notes, so, I mean, it's, I found it already, it's on her thing.
So you can have a look at that. I'll keep going in my journey of learning to felt.
What was the name of that? I write that on.
Fiona Duthie.
It will be on the
I have
blog,
it all written down here. You can photograph it all the end.
and I will make a blog post, not tomorrow, because I'll be invigilating, but maybe.
Now, this was made in a Zoom workshop with Mandy Nash. She's British. She was here and did a bag workshop with us last year. And
Oh, wow.
yes, she did a Zoom workshop. So that was 7 hours. She had 2 different fish, 2 different days, and I did both, but I sold the other fish. So that was,
So it's a live class via Zoom?
it was a live class via Zoom, but it's recorded and still available, I believe.
I think so.
So if you want to do fish and do a whole bunch of these different kind of little sort of things, the only thing is it's not edited. So you either have to follow it for 7 hours or do your own fast forward and stop when you want to. And these were made in a wool called Bergschaf, which is more closely to our native wool. But it dyes and shades quite nicely. That's why she likes it. So I dyed it beforehand, and at that stage not perfectly, so there was a lot of dye coming out when I was felting it. But dyeing isn't tricky. We have this excellent book that tells you how to do it with, actually, some of that might actually be with food coloring. And I'm not gonna wash that fish often, so food coloring will be.
It's dying in this book.
Yeah.
So I bought.
No,
Are we allowed to take photos?
no, of course, yeah.
Of course, and there's gonna be a blog post, so they're
Uh,
taking good
uh,
pictures.
So, then I found this teacher called Eva Camacho. Now, I don't know if she did a couple of online workshops and I don't think she's doing them anymore.
Got a date on.
But she was teaching this Jumshi, which is a Korean paper art.
Fiona, is Fiona similar?
Fiona also did this, but Eva Camacho taught pure Jumshi and then how to incorporate paper and Jumshi into felt. I actually haven't got any examples of that with me, but she had a lovely way of teaching. If she is available, I do her courses just for her attendees, really. Just she also taught a bit of rust dyeing and encouraged stitching and doing more stuff with the pieces. So these are two pieces from the Jumshi course with Eva Camacho. It's a Korean, basically Korean peasants couldn't afford fabric. So they took mulberry paper, layered it, and then felted it, which is a kind of time-consuming thing, but quite therapeutic. And it goes hard like this when it's dry. But if you scrunch it, it goes soft, more like this. And they used it for purses, for actual clothes, because it's quite strong.
This is embroidered then.
Yeah.
And Chloe, what is mulberry?
Yeah, it's just long fibered paper
Yeah.
that's quite expensive to buy.
So is it from the silkworms or is it from the bark?
The bark.
Bark.
So, and if you look up Jumshi, you'll find out more.
You can buy it in that.
Yes,
A lot of
careful so you
people
don't take it off.
when you make
And yes, Fiona Duthie makes a course with paper. I don't know if she does any real Jumshi, but basically she felts paper with wool and that makes it stiffer. So you can do more kind of shaping.
And as well as that, she uses it for making lighting. Do you know what I mean? So lighting.
And you can use ink or markers and stuff. And then when you felt it on, you get kind of a more defined type of image. So these are good. Felting paper and wool requires a lot of patience, very light touch. Because if you go too hard, the wool will felt and the paper will stay on the surface. So again, different papers felted onto wool, but light touch. And basically you do like hundreds of rows with just your fingertips because you really can't felt wool before the wool starts to heat. Okay. So these are some wool and paper examples. Nearly there. Spain, but living in Mexico.
In Massachusetts. Well, she was when I knew her.
I could,
She was a Northeast Scott microscope, but then again, I live here and I see her still.
a lovely woman, anyway, and if she does courses, I would heartily recommend them. She also had Zoom calls where she did kind of lots of critiquing about your work, or it kind of told you it was brilliant and how it could get better.
Sorry, is this?
I'll link
paper
to it.
or the-
Yeah.
section and this?
Mhm.
And these are the different ones.
East Hampton.
Uh, so yes,
She's in Canada, western, where it's like the west coast. I'll kind of put it everything in one. Yeah. You can put it down on the website. And I'll put it back.
mhm. So then, since like I like courses, so
Yeah, they will spend their life.
I did 2 courses with a lady called Christy Kuhn in America, and she sends you all the stuff. So if you ever sign up to one of her courses, make sure she sends it to you 2 months in advance, because Christy Kuhn, living what's her
Opulent Fibers. is
Opulent
her
Fiber.
Business name. She's doing very well.
So she has a particular technique where she uses thick pre-felt, and she felts it to fabric or to wool. And that means that you have a piece that you can manipulate and you should and do whatever you want with it. So and this was a piece that she actually sent the little, I never quite finished it, but she even sent the little frame.
She was a woodworker, so she's.
So
Can you tell us?
sorry?
Can you tell us a little bit about where that is done?
Yes, she uses the very, very thick pre-felt from World of Wool.
Yeah.
And then she needle felts things, and then she continues felting.
So what is that on? Is it a string?
This is really thin cheesecloth.
Oh,
You can't quite get this here. It's more cheesecloth comes in grading from 90 to 10. And the loosest 90 is quite dense. And the loosest I've been able to buy here is 50. And I think this is 10.
you know, the cheesecloth and linen always looks the same to me. What's the difference between them? Cheesecloth.
Cheesecloth is cotton, and then it's quite a lot looser.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
So
Like muslin.
you would use it and would strain jelly and things.
So you see that cheesecloth, is it?
Yeah.
Amazon. Now, I found this in America, but they'd only deliver 100-meter roll. So at some stage, if somebody wants to go in on it, I could buy a 100-meter roll. But but you can use cheesecloth, like you see on some of the pieces. You can use cheesecloth for Nuna felting. It doesn't have to be silk. Cotton works if it's loose. So if you want to try the Nuna felting, don't want to invest in lots of silk. Cheesecloth is actually quite good.
God, we should have thrown all those cheesecloth shirts we had years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
Cheesecloth is really-
the baby, kind of little, squares.
Yeah.
No, for
Those are
open up the message.
Yeah.
Yeah. much love.
This is the honest part of the wording.
I think so.
You know, like.
Yeah.
Call it a million
Yeah,
bits.
yeah, all the baby thing, the more.
The bigger or the more.
Um,
More.
Yeah, I didn't always follow the instructions.
Yeah, because it's mine are 10, or they start at 20, then they have 10. They're probably not just.
Yes. Sorry? I went through the house and just chucked things in the back.
That's fine. So, yeah, but I don't remember this one. That's beautiful.
Very sharp.
So yeah, this is cheesecloth again. It went round before.
Yeah.
So if you have things like this is a very dense silk circles, they wouldn't really felt on their own. But because they're under the cheesecloth holds it in place. So, and this is obviously 50, I think, whereas that is 10 grade cheesecloth.
And they all gonna be explaining that doing none of that. I used to go to England and get it now, so. Carbon copy. It's used. I once made a pilgrimage to Leeds to the shop that sold it there. Very fine.
Now, I don't do proper embroidery backs.
Were these threads actually stitched in or were they laid?
They were laid around cardboard shape. Oh, and I've forgotten.
So that 8 was most recent?
Another course I did was Molly Williams. She does kind of tacking wool into place around a metal framework. Now her pieces were more, she encouraged more abstract figure, but I wanted more lifelike. So I did my best to get it as lifelike as possible.
So is that a metal frame or is it just,
Yeah.
the way you do the?
Metal frame.
It was a proper metal frame in that.
Yeah, I think you could see maybe the metals coming through inside.
So you made the metal frame yourself
Yes.
and then you bent it onto it.
Yeah. And because I was a ceramicist, I made a base
Yes.
for it. So. So she. I think does regular courses. She does a small kind of dancing figure or a larger sitting figure. We're getting to the end.
How do you felt onto that? Sort of rub the arms and then the legs.
Yes, but again, you have to do the course.
Yeah.
I'd love to tell you, but
Yeah.
you have to respect the teacher. This was a course where I actually don't remember the name of the teacher. Rita knows, I was gonna ask her. Now, I wasn't entirely successful, but basically the idea was you had a picture or a small, and then you had silk, or in this case, cheesecloth, and then you painted an acrylic medium that took up the picture so that you could get pictures into your piece. Now, I just liked the actual effect of the acrylic medium in the cheesecloth. So that's what I did. So this is acrylic medium, cheesecloth, and wool. On the other hand, the back is nearly nicer than the front.
Was that an online class?
Yes, but not on Rasuko, which is why I don't have it still.
Was it on Thinkific?
I don't remember. Breda knows.
Okay, I'll ask her.
So we'll give you the name later on.
But not
Sorry,
today.
what course is that?
Eva Camacho.
Oh, okay, then let me,
Annika, is it, hi, it's me here, Lynn. Listen, is it the fabric lamination course from Ruth Lane on ProBoard?
Yes, Ruth
thank
Lane.
you so much.
No problem.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I've just left a few messages there on the typing, whatever, just about the cheese board. You might have a look at it afterwards, and perhaps there might be a solution closer to home. but look at it later. I don't want to disturb you now. Okay.
We welcome your contribution.
Thank you very much. You're very good.
So finally, and then we'll talk between ourselves about other courses you may have done, or that you'd like to.
Oh.
Gladys Paulus. She is fabulous.
Ah.
I would so much like to do an in-person course with her, but she only does 2 a year, and they're kind of, I'm on the waiting list for next year. So she has 2 online classes. Again, I don't know how often she runs them, but the first one I did was a lotus pod, and you make this over 3 weeks. And you have a whole bunch of layers to make the body, and then you make these little beads that you kind of put plastic around, and you do kind of lots of, and you also can leave holes with colored insides. And Julianne made a hat based on this, which is in the exhibition.
Afterwards, though, not in, it wasn't part of the workshop.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, that would
But she
not be
used
that
the
technique. Yeah,
so,
just for
yes.
the top.
So this was 24 micron merino, but it feels coarser. I have a 23 micron merino that's much finer than this. So I think sometimes the micron doesn't tell you everything. This is from Eco Hobby, and I think their 24 micron is a lot rougher than Woolno's 23 micron. Don't know. Gladys Paulus also used a heat gun to burn off the fuzz, which took me a couple of tries to figure out, but I can now use a heat gun. But I might still be getting a few kind of little burnt patches. And then last Gladys Paulus course, we were doing horns, and there were 2 shapes of horn, a straighter one and then a curved one. And again, I want to make one more horn because I didn't figure out everything I wanted to. But she teaches you good felting, where you can see the difference when you haven't quite felted enough, and when you felted enough that it takes shapes. And again, this plays a little bit on the pick and pin theme that we started with. So we're doing a full circle.
Yeah.
I could felt this more. I might, but I never have the time to go back. Because it actually has a bit more give than I would have liked it to do, but at some stage you have to give up. So this is my last course that I've done, apart from the, but again, now I'm more into the jewelry at the moment. So if you have comments or courses you would recommend, or but that's all I have. Oh, one little tip I think I can share. They work on wool and silk. The clay Oscar POS, you get them in nice stationery and
I think they have one in the mall with Undermine.
The one you iron?
no, you don't need to do anything.
So that's good.
It's fast.
Yeah,
Is it kind of shiny?
yeah. If you buy the glittery ones, you actually get kind of So that's literally a 10 on that. scale. So it looks like it's just 10 piece of material. Oh, there's still on the wall and then the back.
So the first thing you can actually write on the words.
You can put it on the paper.
And they might, so it's fuzzy, silk is better.
Okay.
So it looks more brown.
The one your iPhone.
It looks like
But I like to write it in full. Still trying to find a way to do it. I want to write a variation of full and have editing under. But with those pens, you have to write, then write backwards, and then iron. And
Oh, writing backwards.
People try the Posca pen.
Yeah.
Also something I found that is, fast, is, acrylic.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're not gonna be wearing, you're not making even a scarf. People doesn't really.
But if you want to write a sentence, that's what it means. I would say please, whatever.
Yes. So you might want to do one of the paper on, because,
It's on the paper and then it says it.
Yeah. Or you can do before, or you can do after. Yeah. Let me see where it did. There it is. I'm sorry. I'm not helping you.
okay.
It's not here, because that's a,
Oh,
it should have come back. It definitely came back. It definitely came back. I know it came back. I haven't been like keeping inventory, but I know it came back.
The white one.
The one that's got the asemic writing, that's what Fiona refers it to as asemic writing. I know it's here, because I took a picture of it.
and I wrote somebody's.
There it is. This one?
Yes.
So that's with the Posca pen.
Oh, and is this
Is
this someone? Oh, she didn't rob it. Okay.
They are, they're Russian pen.
Julianne,
Yes?
I wonder, could you turn the camera around a bit? And that is perfect. What do you think, ladies? Is that okay?
Yeah, we have no idea. I mean, I
So
can
much.
see me, but that's.
No,
better?
you're doing a great job. It's fantastic. It's a real game changer. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Thank
Do
you
you want
so
it going
much.
down to the table more? Because I was thinking
Lovely.
Annika was the focus, but
I think that's really super.
I'm not supposed to show everything you. I'm sorry. I'm getting like, I get distracted, obviously.
Not at all, not at all. It's great to have
I don't think I
this.
should this.
Wow.
So these ones would be Fiona Duffy, the raised surfaces class.
Fabulous.
This one is the Nanny Nash.
Oh, wow.
And I will do links, but this is Christy Kuhn, Opulent Fibers.
Oh, right.
She's an American. Supposedly this is some kind of cheesecloth. I don't know. Pre-felt. Her other one is. This one has this wonderful give. It would be wonderful. Kind of reminds me of that Dutch designer does clothing. These ones are we think Fiona Duffy's surface class, which I've taken. They are Fiona.
Excellent.
This is the Eva Camacho. I don't know if she's still teaching, but she's in East Hampton, but she's from Spain. And
Fabulous.
this is Ruth. Ruth
Great.
Lane's class at the Fiber Felting Forum. Is that the right name? This
Yeah,
would have been Fiona's. I think this is like the Shibori felt chapter, I believe. This is her, and she's labeled everything, pre-felt, and seeing how it goes through silk. Is, I think Fiona's also,
Goodness me, these are fantastic.
this is
Isn't it,
using
Claire?
this on top. I mean, Fiona's really great.
She is.
The edge. This also, I believe the edge.
Oh, lovely.
Pre-felt,
Yeah.
I happen to know. This one, maybe homemade felt on the back, right?
Beautiful, beautiful.
Just trying to, again, edge. That one I passed it, but This one.
Oh, wow.
This is the raised surface one. Must be Irish wool. I have a feeling just because this, I don't even think it's Berkshire. It looks really strong. This one is the one of the Jimshi with, this is Ava Camacho's, I believe. So it's just paper, it's not felt, but what you can do with a different paper, and it's from bark of mulberry. I wasn't clear on that myself. And then another, this is inclusions from Fiona Duffy's class, her surface design class, she calls it. This is her paper class. This is because I have taken this class, mine are much stiffer, but you have to be very careful with it. It doesn't work for hats so well since hats get wet, or they should get wet. And then I think we've seen everything. We've seen these. This is the Pam de Groot second. I call it the second class, but I took it first myself, confusing me. All right, we have everything. Oh, there's still things coming. The lotuses are coming. Let me see if there's any other chat stuff. It's hard to hear when you're away from the microphone. That's probably true. Right now people are just talking, and this is just a regular laptop. I don't have a fancy mic or camera. My husband would have that for work, but I don't have it. I can bring it closer. Okay, let's see what happens. Shipping hazard.
Do a little bit of this and that. So sometimes my dye isn't exhausted. I try to then do a second dye in it, but sometimes that doesn't work, and I have to pour out dye into something. So ideally, you would weigh your wool, you would weigh your dye, and get it just right, and then make sure it's all used up.
Fiona teaches the dye class. I haven't taken it. It's
But
probably good.
I don't work that way. I'm more like a coach, add a bit here and there. So, I think that is the end, but thank
Okay.
you for being here.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Oh, and I
much.
didn't show you, well, let me show you, wait, let me show you Gladys Paulus's things, because you guys didn't see them yet. I'm gonna just put them on here. And this is the horn class that she took in August, which is amazing. Annika always does several of something, so I know she did more than one. It's really firm. And Gladys is a really, Fiona's a really good teacher. Gladys is, considering that she's online, she's only taught 2 classes. She's superb. So kind of like the psychology of how you approach something and how much effort it takes with the planning. And then in the end, how much to keep working. She's amazing. I'm going to get you the lotus pod.
They have to go off. We're not sure whether it's use of our resources.
Pod, the lotus pod. I know Annika did a couple since you made the seeds. It's fabulous class.
It's beautiful. Julianne, I actually did, I was with Gladys in person there, we had with Filmmakers Ireland in 2018. And
She came here.
she has been here,
Yeah,
She
back
did
to
seed
COVID.
pods. And she's a magnificent teacher in person, so
She
if
is.
we ever get the opportunity again, I'd say go for it.
Sure.
She's super.
Cool. So I know we're still sort of chatting. Chatting. Let me see if there's anything new in the chat to answer. Oh, thank you. Okay, thanks. Thank you so much. So I'm gonna stop the recording because I'm gonna have to see what this does because I don't know, and then see if I can upload it to YouTube. It won't be today or even tomorrow because I'm vigilating. And I will do a blog post with links to the different teachers and photos, though my camera works okay, but it doesn't. The Gladys Horn one was this summer in August, which is not a great time to take classes for most people. But it was August and it was on, it was in August. The other pod was June, I think, or July, June or May. She was really good too. They're both good. Even if you have no desire to make a pod or a horn, she's such a fabulous teacher. All right. Take care. All right, bye. I'm gonna stop recording.
Bye.